Today's topics would include monsoon forecast in India said to be about normal and it has been said by Indian Meteorological Department. So what will be the geographical factors which will be responsible for a normal monsoon in India and what will be the consequences of it? What kind of good effect actually that monsoon has on our economy? We will be dealing about it. Second, 40 years of Siachin and Operation Meghdoot will be part of our GS2. How it defined actually relationship between India and Pakistan. What was its role in strengthening even India's military preparedness and defense production? Third, seizures in this election crossing around 4,600 crore rupees, and that is an all-time high, even greater than the total amount of seizure that was done in the last Lok Sabha elections. Strategic importance of Andaman and Nicobar Island. We must also understand that there is a growing strategic importance about Andaman and Nicobar Island the world over now. India's waters in the Andaman and Nicobar, which were left actually untreated earlier or undecided, now are getting a strategic dimension, and what kind of effect it can have on the India and other Indian Asian countries will be the next point of attention. So the first one, India to get above normal monsoon rainfall, says Indian Meteorological Department. So when we talk about the long period average, that actually comes around 87 centimeter rainfall in our country. So when we talk about what is a normal rainfall, it is around 87 centimeter. This year, the Indian Meteorological Department has predicted that the rainfall is supposed to be around 106% of the normal rainfall period. Rainfall over the whole country during June-September period was 82 centimeter in 2023. And as we note, year 2023 was engulfed by El Nino event. El Nino, as you know, is a weather phenomena where the equatorial or the central Pacific waters actually become rather usually warm, and that affect the cyclonic and the wind pattern. Those actually, actually subside over the central Pacific and close to the Peruvian coast. And that causes the warmth of the oceans around Peru and South American coast and normal actually cold of the temperatures near about the Australian and Indian Ocean. So that caused the rainfall to decrease in and the territories around Indian Ocean and the Australian and near about Australia. This time the conditions of El Nino are supposed to dissipate and that has started dissipating, and conditions about La Nina is improving. What is La Nina? So La Nina is adverse effect of the El Nino. It is just as opposite as El Nino. So in El Nino, as we see usually warm water in Pacific and Central Pacific Oceans. In La Nina, what we see is cold waters or usually cold waters in the Pacific, central part of it, and in the eastern part of it. But while in the Western Pacific or in the Indian Ocean or close to Australia, the waters will be usually warmed. So when there is a warmth, then there will be low pressure situations those can occur. Because of the warm water, the water vapor may rise, and after actually reaching to a particular level, they will start decreasing and they can cause rainfall. So La Nina is associated with a greater amount and greater intensity of the rainfall, and that is one of the reason that El Nino is dissipating and La Nina will be in the business from around July to August period. And third is also that there is a significant bump in the conditions actually that is favoring us, and that is regarding the snowfall. When we talk about the snowfall in the Central Asian countries and in the Northern Hemisphere, the snowfall has been lower that side. And because of that also, the monsoon in our country gets affected and it gets a positive sort of, picture. So these three, four regions are the regions. A favorable Indian Ocean dipole that is called IOD can also contribute to the monsoon strengthening in our country as the country, marches towards July or September or August period. So these are the Indian Meteorological Department's good fortunes and good warnings about the Indian monsoon. When we talk about monsoon further, we should understand that monsoon contributes to our economic development and well-being of our people because close to 50% of our livelihood is dependent still on the agriculture, although agriculture's contribution to our gross domestic product has come around 13 to 14%. But monsoon not only contributes to agriculture, but also provides actually significant, soil moisture for the kharif and even rabi crops as well. So a monsoon helps into that particular thing. A good monsoon also causes the water reservoirs to fill up, and because of that reservoirs, the water may seep through, and the groundwater actually can get recharged, or the amount of surface water that we use for irrigation purposes or some other purposes, the quantity required for that it can also decrease. So monsoon also contribute into that aspect. Number third, monsoon also provides a good moderation of the temperature. That also reduces the amount of power that we require or the amount of water actually that is required to satisfy the needs of the people for cooling. So that also contributes in the monsoon contribution story. We now move on to the second topic, and second topic is regarding 40 years of Operation Meghdoot. This Operation Meghdoot was actually brought in to help India fight against the Siachin. In Siachin, the trouble started when Pakistani soldiers gained heights in the garb of all those people which were used to allow their cattle to take home the grass. So Operation Meghdoot was an Indian military operation when on 13th of April, actually we in 2021, India hoisted the national flag at the world's highest battlefield, Siachin, and they commemorated 37th Siachin Day that saluted heroes of this Operation Meghdoot. So Operation Meghdoot was an Indian military operation to take the Siachin Glacier in Kashmir, and it was, as for your common knowledge, led by Lieutenant General Prem Nath Hun. It was executed on the mornings of 13th of April 1984 on the highest battlefield of the world. Operation Meghdoot was the first military offensive of its kind. The operation was a success and it dashed Pakistan hopes of sieging the glacier in the valley. As you must understand that in the garb of those grazers, Pakistani military personnel occupied heights. And as these heights were actually, just like as a very, very steep heights, so India's response was limited. India's military power could not got the resources required to give them the reply in the same capacity as it would have meant had the hills been slopey. But as this was a steep cover, it would have been very, very difficult that time. So Siachen Glacier, for your kind attention, it has been a bone of contention since the Karachi Agreement in July 1949. It gave a vague declaration or demarcation of territories and unspecified authority over them. Indian interpretation was that the Pakistani territory extended till Salotra Ridge. Salotra Ridge actually is based on the Simla Agreement where the territorial lines route after the last demarcated point that is called NJ 9842 was thence the north of the glacier. So suppose if these are the glaciers, we feel that NJ 9842 is situated north to it. Pakistan's interpretation was that the territory continued northeastern points from 984J point to the Karakoram Pass. So there are different interpretations of this particular glacier. India says that the point 9842 is basically in the northern side, while the Pakistani says that it is in the northeastern side. And because of that demarcation, the Siachen Glacier has always been a bone of contention between India and Pakistan. And because of this contention, the constant, military expenditure to maintain army at such a freezing cold temperature in itself is a very, very big military spending. But then you have to save your territorial integrity. As we also know that China's Belt and Road Initiative is also passing through or near about, the Karakoram Pass. And that also causes for India a strategic challenge because all where the roads those are being constructed into that particular territory can be really, really harmful for saving India's territorial lines. We also know that the line of actual control in Pakistan and between India is also not demarcated after the certain section of international border that passes between India and Pakistan through Gujarat, Rajasthan, and Punjab. But in Jammu and Kashmir, the border is largely unsettled. Article 370, which actually talked about abolishing the special status for Jammu and Kashmir, it also created a new separate state Ladakh, and in that also because of the territorial complexities, the China and India's conflict is also on a rise. There are different interpretations to Ladakh story also. So this is how the Siachin actually complexes the situation for us, but it is an important battlefield to always get the height of. So Siachin Glacier demarcates Central Asia from the Indian subcontinent and separates Pakistan from China in the region. Due to its control over Saltoro Bridge, India is better placed to strike a bargain while settling bilateral territorial dispute vis-a-vis Pakistan in the future. Also, when you have heights as your primary advantage, you can actually target the Pakistani military establishment or the Pakistani military lines at a far greater vigor. The Siachen Glacier is considered to be the single largest source of fresh water on the Indian subcontinent as well. So this is not a matter of geographical territory, it is also a matter of the water as well. So Siachen Glacier that contributes single largest source of fresh water on the Indian subcontinent. The glacier is the source for the Nubra River. So whenever you are asked about the Nubra River, you can always mention this. Nubra River that eventually feeds the mighty Indus, and it's a major water source that irrigates the Punjab plains in Pakistan. So whatever the military expenditure that we are spending as of now, it is not on plain terms. The indirect benefits or the direct benefits that it provides entails a larger strategic advantage, economic advantage for our people, plus securing water. We now move on to the third topic, and that is with Seizures at 4,650 crore rupees and counting. Paul Penal takes on the money power. When we talk about free and fair elections, money power, freebies, drugs, and even liquor, etc., affect the election at a larger capacity. When we talk about the money power, it is an important fact that actually l- imbalances the level playing field. The level playing field is a very basic phenomena to save democracy from the scourge of the money power. Second concern is also when you do not allow the rule of law to prevail in those geographies where the polls are happening because of the influence of drugs, liquor, etc. Then what we are doing is we are effectively muzzling the candidates who are having a good characteristics. Because when we talk about the criminalization of politics, the main thing actually that is associated with criminalization of politics also, that criminals use their nexus and the networks to further adversely affect the conflict of interest and further adversely affect the rule of law, adversely affect the kind of level playing field that is ensured by the Election Commission of India and its machinery. So the seizures about 4,650 crore rupees and counting in this particular election is what is making the elections as some sort of level playing field, but a huge work is required. So Election Commission of India in its yesterday's a press conference said that this year's election or seizures are at an all-time high. In the last Lok Sabha election, during every phase, the there was a sharp increase. Around 3,475 crore rupees were seized during the entire Lok Sabha election in 2019. This time, from March 1 to April 13, and still not a single vote has been cast. 4,650 crore rupees is the seizure. It is not just vote for cash. There seem to be plenty of other inducements also. Now it's all that includes drugs worth about 2,068 crore rupees, precious metal about 562, other items around 1,150 crore rupees. With drugs and narcotics accounting for a whooping 45% of seizures, they are under the special focus of the Commission. The Election Commission of India says that these seizures are the result of comprehensive planning, scaled up collaboration, unified deterrence by various agencies, and proactive citizenship participation. We know for the citizen participation, there are certain apps actually which Election Commission of India has particularly prepared, and with that also, and the helpline numbers, those are available as the government citizenry contact, that can also help actually to raise these kind of concerns. Model code of violation has been a major reason of worry, and model code of violation not only happens through speech but happens through the freebies, money power, the black money that comes into picture, the drugs, precious metals, and liquor. If parties and candidates are relying on the power of luring the voters through these instruments, Election Commission of India is ready and waiting. In an earlier press briefing also, the Chief Election Commissioner has stressed how income tax and airport authorities are also ready with the plan to inspect non-scheduled aircrafts and helicopters. Even border agencies are also keeping a close watch on the international posts. Then comes the third one, that is Andaman and Nicobar Island through a strategic lens. There is a new thrust on developing strategic infrastructure, both civilian and military, on the Andaman and Nicobar Island. Why that is so? Because number one, when we talk about China, China's ingress in the Indian Ocean region and near about India through earlier string of pulse policy and now Belt and Road Initiative is causing India a lot of heartburn. India's neighbors, especially on the Bangladesh side and Myanmar, and even in the Asian countries also, and Sri Lanka and Maldives, are all being challenged by China. India's friendly relation with these countries has always been a bone of contention for China. China, through its debt diplomacy or other sort of infrastructure, and even the South China Sea, the artificial island that it is building, it's creating a channel or the naval infrastructure through which Chinese people or Chinese military warships are now getting into the research sort of mode and help has been, visiting these waters. So Andaman and Nicobar, which were earlier barren and of thought actually of no use, are now getting an strategic deterrence. You must have also heard the story that Japan is also interested to work with India and jointly develop the infrastructure on the Andaman and Nicobar Island. As we know that Japan and India are part of the Quadrilateral platform, these countries are having a bilateral mechanism through which the relationship be in the economic domain or even in the defense domain are on the rise. Technological collaboration among these countries is also on the up. When we talk about South Korea also, South Korea is seeking to build relationship with India on the technological front as well. When we talk about the Asian countries and the countries, especially Malaysia, Singapore, Brunei, Vietnam, those also treat India as a net security provider in the Indian Ocean. When they treat India as a net security provider, India should also create some structures where the infrastructure that India creates, the military strength that India actually builds, and the technological prowess that India achieves, and the economic potential that India achieves, and the supply chain resilience that India achieves will be a great, strategic deterrence for India vis-a-vis China. When we talk about the United States interest in relationship building with India, it is also because India's geographical advantage. We must know that India has close to 7,100 kilometers of the border coast, sorry, of the coastal lines. When we talk about 7,000 kilometer large border line, they not only actually contributes for your export potential through ports, they also allow you to have the exclusive economic zone in a vast capacity. So the minerals, so the exploration of natural gas, other etc. will get a major further boost. When we develop the Andaman and Nicobar Island, our ability to actually, place military infrastructure there or even have a outright post can also be a great advantage. We must also know that India has signed logistic exchange memorandum of agreement with number of countries, and that is also one of the reason why it is important for India to build Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Recently, you must have seen that our Prime Minister's visit in Lakshadweep caused a heartburn to another country called Maldives. Although Prime Minister went there and wanted to actually, show the Lakshadweep as a tourist destination, but the contribution by the Maldives politician towards the hatred was at a larger scale. And that also tells that if India builds its own infrastructure to become self-reliant not only for tourism purpose but also for the strategic advantages, and placing its military infrastructure there can be a great huge success story for India. When we talk about it, ports and fuel short storages must be built in both the northern and southern groups of the island for ships' operational turnaround times without the need to return to the Port Blair, and Andaman and Nicobar can become a greater handy thing. The Andaman and Nicobar Island stretch 420 nautical miles, that is around 780 kilometers, from north to south. This sea area needs to be monitored and patrolled by the aircraft and surface platforms. So separate airfields with long runways can then operate. Boeing 737 size aircrafts are essential. The Army, Navy, and the Air Force must not only commit more forces but station the right mix of assets at the Andaman and Nicobar Island, because the presence of the troops must match the requirements to keep the island sanitized all the times. The pace of development must be enhanced by sourcing suitable material from abroad, utilizing international expertise on creating marine infrastructure and using components. Forest and environmental clearances must be also accorded and minimum red tape. What should strategic infrastructure development? That's why must be of our concern, and we must build Andaman and Nicobar Island through a strategic lens. For more such videos, you can like the button and subscribe the channel. Thank you.